but here we go. I'm also going to stop my camera so that people can just see and focus on you.
Okay, great.
And let's kick it off.
So first of all, this is I just got asked to do this yesterday, so I'm sorry to say I do not have slides. What I'm going to give you is real time. I'm going to give you links on the chat. Maybe I don't know if there's going to be a Slack channel that can be created out of this, for this TJ bot thing, so we can share information on there.
Yes, I think that they've just shared the Slack team for the whole event, and the TJ bot part will be one of the channels. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, please send me that link a little bit later. So, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that all of you are logged into Bluemix, right? So on Bluemix, you get in. We have two different ones. We have the public Bluemix and then the dedicated Bluemix, and then it shows you your different apps, and then you also have a catalog, right? So for Nodered is it's an open source project out there. So if I just do Nodered out there, you'll see a open source project on there. So the good news is that you don't need to go out there and get it, right? Because it's existing on, as you saw on that Google search there a minute ago, it exists on Raspberry Pi, it exists on Bluemix. So I'm going to touch on a little bit on the difference here. The IBM Bluemix version is the cloud version. You can have everything controlled up on the cloud, right? You can, and just have some little instrumentation code on your device that receives commands and all that. And when I'm in device, this is a device. This guy's got the little Raspberry Pi on there that you're going to learn how to install Raspberry Pi for noobs onto it, connect it to the network. There's a couple of ways you can connect to it. You can connect to it through the Ethernet cable and connect it to your laptop through, internet sharing services, or you can use the Wi-Fi option on the board. It's a little bit tricky getting it off the ground. There's a few different things that you can do to have it preset and connect to the network and all that. The other version is you can actually do the Nodered right on the Raspberry Pi. I think some of the Raspberry Pi images actually do come with it already loaded on there, and it's very powerful. IBM donates code to this project. I don't even know if it's totally IBM and we just donated it. I don't know exactly, but anyway. So back to Bluemix. So we're going to go to Bluemix catalog, and you can just type Nodered on there, right? And then there's a Nodered starter, right? Okay. So there's two things. This is the Nodered by itself, where you can do the Internet of Things platform starter. So platform starter is pretty cool. The IoT is good because my sample that I'm going to show you is around sensors, like temperature sensor and all these kinds of things. So it's very easy to create one. So I'm going to actually just call this one TJ bot for now, and then I'm walking through step by step how you create this, so that way I'm not just showing you a bunch of already pre-cooked things. I just love those shows where they just pull the thing out of the microwave and it's already cooked. So somebody used the TJ bot on there. So what I normally do is, when it's a common name like that, then I just do dash and then my initials. So in my case, it's dash DJ. Okay, so it's out there creating, and this thing uses the several services, right? It uses the IoT platform, and I'll explain more what that does. And then it uses an instance of Cloud NoSQL DB. Don't let that bother you, okay? Nodered needs somewhere to store its information, right? Nodered is a codeless language. Actually, not totally codeless, but you can literally code with pictures. Okay, so here's some, while that's going on, I'll show you some stuff. Let me see here. Pull up my Nodered. Where are you? Okay. So I'm going to share on the thing here. John Wallachy Hello? There's a little echo there. John Wallachy, he's one of the application developer advocates out there, and he has created a set of TJ-bot Node-RED things that tie in with your TJ-bot. It's really powerful and stuff like that. So it's all in GitHub, ready to go, so you can play around with that. But while this thing is created, Node-RED has a whole set of, like a palette on the left, which then you pick and choose from, and you know, drag it over here and all that, and connect it all together, and out something comes to the right. So I'll get into more details on that here. So let's go back over here and see if this guy completed. So this guy's, when you instantiate it, it goes through a process of creating it and starting it, and it sets you through, you know, some steps to go through here, right? So let's go to my Node-RED instance here real quick. Where art thou? All right, so I'm going to cheat here, create a new tab. But, Node-RED. Okay, is he done? Hold on. Okay, let's go back to the apps. I already have one created, so I'm going to go to my apps here.
Yeah, I think John Renfro called that like the cooking show, where you have one that's already baked.
Yeah, one that's baked and one that's cooking. So I'm trying to this thing gets in the way. Okay, so apps. Guess he's really busy there. Let me start a new Bluemix window while that guy's going on. Yeah, the reason is just like still starting the application. So when it's done, it'll, you know, you can see here it's creating it, and it's in the process of starting it. So these are the states of your apps. The one that I already created is this one over here. Click on it, and then it basically starts your Node-RED instance. So you click here, go to your Node-RED flow editor. So this guy is called a flow editor. That's where you pick and choose all your things. You have different tabs over here, so you can see I have different kinds of flows, some more complicated than others, and they all have different purposes. So like at the last hackathon that I ran on the IEEE Southeast Con, we had this card reader. So basically you could scan somebody's card, just one of those regular like credit cards, and then each of these nodes has a little piece of information or action to it. So you double click on it, you select some different functions, right? In this case, I had gotten a HTTP node. Let me go back to that, and I apologize if I'm jumping too much on here. So you see each one of these has a different function, right? So in this case, this one here, this picture is an HTTP one. So this one is a post action, and then we give it a URL path and all that, and give it a name, right? So once it goes through there and it receives that scanning of that card, right? Notice that this is a slash here. Okay, what that maps to is this here, this URL. Okay, let's say I open up a new tab and paste that URL on there. You can then get rid of all the way up to here. And remember, this is your Node-RED application, right? And then you take that IEEE/postcard, and so when you're developing your app that accesses your Node-RED application, right? Then that becomes your API entry point. Okay, so I'll get back to it. It didn't do anything because it was actually expecting me to submit something with that, because this is a GET request. All right, so let's go back over here. So the flow of this is that it grabs a string from the credit card and from the mag strip. This here is your best friend. Okay, this is what's called an output debug mode node. You can literally just grab to here and connect it. And then any action will spit out some information, right? And this is, and you click on the debug tab. So I'm going to clear the debug tab here real quick. And you can turn it on and off from these buttons. So to delete one, you just click on it and say delete. So do you see stuff coming out of here? This stuff is not coming from this flow. It's actually coming from this flow over here. I've got a bunch of debug nodes running over here. So I'm actually going to turn those off so that they don't create too much noise right now. And I'll explain this one in a few seconds here, in a few minutes. So when I went to that screen there, right, and did this submit, it gave me that error, right? So that actually went to my Nodered and executed something there. And let me go back over there. Where are you? Uh-oh. Is it this one? Yeah. Something would pop out over here, right? So it doesn't look like it popped out anything. I don't know why. I'll show it to your work in a minute. So then let's say it comes through here, goes to, oh, okay. So this is what's called a function node. Function node is where you do some kind of action to it. So let me double click on it. And in there, you can actually put some JavaScript code into there. So this post HTTP GET sends information to this node. And then I write a little bit of JavaScript that says, okay, this message.payload.card, right? So everything is message.payload. It's one message to another. So let me go back real quick here. So there's an input and then there's an output. So here, this posts and it sends through the results to this guy, right? And then you do some string manipulation on here, right? And then you get the packet ready for the next guy. And so really what I'm trying to do here is grab a little portion of the string, right? And just grab that information and make it a little bit smaller and more direct because I'm going to call something on the database, right? So here I create another function and then I add a little bit something else to it. So I grab the card information and then I add IEEE search colon to it, right? And then I say message payload equals that query string because I'm going to get it ready for my database, right? So this icon over here is a database. So if you go down over here, here's the functions that I was just telling you about. And you got to sit down and understand the different ones. Some of them you're going to use them, some you're not going to use, right? Like here's some social ones if you want to send an email or send a tweet, right? You can use that. If you want to store stuff into the cloud, you put it on there, right? We have a whole bunch of things that tie into Watson IoT, that tie into IBM Watson, like you can get the weather, natural language, retrieve and rank. If you want to make it talk, you can do speech to text or text to speech. Text to speech is the one that talks. Speech to text is the voice reco, right? If you want to do some tone analyzer and all that, there's a ton of different things here. We're just going to touch on one or two of them. But I'm going to tell you how you learn, okay? How you learn about each one of these is that, okay, if I want to know what this is about, I click on info. On every one of these little boxes, info is key, right? It tells you that it's like the little manual on the fly that tells you what is in, what is out, how can you debug it as well, how do you can display some error messages and all that. So that's really key. You really have to, try to understand, how it works. All right, so let's go back to this guy here. We already went through this. It has one output, right? Let's go to the next guy. This is my database one. Okay, so we got to an important piece here. If it's a database node, you have to tell it what database you're connecting to, right? So this is connecting to my first IoT, which remember it created it as part of the Nodered. That's the one. So inside of that one, I have a smart card database. They can coexist. I can have different data, tables in there, no problem. And then I'm going to do a search index, right? And remember, I told it to do IEEE search. So it's a particular view in my database, right? And then blah, blah, blah. And then it search by that name. Okay, segue real quick. Where is my database? Okay. So I got to go back to my dashboard, right? So if I want to, and that guy's a service. Let's go back to the dashboard. And by the way, these are all services. They all have credentials. It's really important for you to know that. So and name these things so you can find them, because I'll tell you what, you can get a whole boatload of these, and then you won't be able to know which one's which. So I just double clicked on the Cloudent one. I click on launch. Now it's going to take me over to the Cloudent system, where I can actually look at my databases, and look at that. I have the Nodered one, right? You leave that one alone. That's where it has all of the different, nodes and information and all that. So don't touch that one, because you could, you can shoot yourself in the foot. But you can create new ones on here and just kind of like store data along with it. So I've got my temperature one, and I've got my smart card one. So in the smart card one, I preloaded in here, I actually imported the list of all the valid cards for the hackathon that we had. So that Node-RED flow, what it did was look up to see who was a valid, person in the database, right? So it goes through there, looks it up, and then here's the smart card response that we do, and we also have a message that comes out, right? And we had it so it prints out who the first name and the last name of the person was, right? So it basically looked it up on the database, and it returned the first name and last name of the person. And if it didn't find one, then it went in. So the idea behind this is that you would want to send a message back to a little light or something like that on your IoT device, right? So you could have a card reader, scan it, sends it up to the cloud, and then comes back to your smart card reader or to your TJ bot, and have a little light go on and off. If it's red, it would, say, nope, that card's not authorized. If it's green, then it would go forward. So you see how easy it is to create a flow like that for like a card reader and stuff like that. And you could even make your TJ bot talk. You could add some more nodes into here. You could say something like, because like this message, you could add something like, we could go down here, and then, so let's look for the text to speech to text, text to speech. So you would go over here, just drag this guy over here, double click on it, speak to me, right? Give it a name, and here you got to give your credentials, right? Oh, okay. What credentials? Okay, yeah, the credentials I was just telling you about, right? On the let's go back to the dashboard. So again, each one of these is going to use these credentials. So do I have a text to speech already created? Yep, I got one created, right? You can use the same service for multiple apps, right? I mean, you don't want to go creating extra services. So you go to service credentials, view credentials, and here we go. What's my username? This is the username. Don't even try to read it, because you're not going to get it. And try to avoid, typos. So literally use cut and paste for this. Come back here, all right? And then go back over here and paste that. And then see, you can have it come back as wave, FLAC, or OGG. Well, guess what? Oh, I can talk in Spanish. Okay, yo hablo español. Yes, and then you can select which voice you want. There's the male voice, female, Allison, and Lisa. These are pretty well known. And wow, you can actually place the output and message payload. So why is this? Okay, wait. if you're going to send this back to the TJ bot here, right, and it's going to come back over here, let's say I want to send that message. Let me get that. So the idea is that this message is going to spit out a message. Okay, I want it to say the message. So I connect it to this guy. Okay, and then it's going to return a WAV file, which, by the way, I need to send it to the TJ bot, right? So here I send it to the TJ bot, and then the TJ bot, I can set the different commands here, right? Tell it what the device is, which is already, it's going to be configured on your Watson IoT. I would change it, to say something like something else. In this case, it's called alert, right? The format is going to say string, but in this case, it's probably going to be, binary data. So all of this is a message that's going to get received by the Raspberry Pi on that end. So you put in here, and on the Raspberry Pi on the receiving side, when you're receiving the messages, you look for these things, what the command type is, what the format is, and then you can then pass that directly into APlay on the TJ bot. APlay is the thing that plays the audio file. So you'll learn more about that. I know we're throwing a lot at you at once, but I think it's good to see how this thing works end to end. So notice how before we had a string that was just being sent to the TJ bot. Now we're actually sending audio data to the TJ bot. Same kind of thing. If you wanted to have the TJ bot, do reco, you could literally just record the audio, right, and say speech to text, right? Create, go get an IoT guy over here. Where's my IoT? An IBM IoT, right? And then you connect these two together, right? Pum pum. And then let's say if you wanted to, create some function that takes a look at what that text got converted, right? And if it's some action, let's say tweet, something, something, right? Then in this function, you can look at to see if you said the command tweet. Then you can strip that out of that function, right? In the function, you strip out that word tweet and then grab the rest of the text and then send that over to Twitter, right? So, well, no, that's the wrong one. See, we can't. It needs to be an input here, so that must not be the right block, right? So let me delete that. I need one that can connect to as an input. The output of this connects to that. So notice here, this guy's trying to tell you stuff, right? These little dots, they're trying to tell you that there's more work to be done in there, right? I'm missing information. So Nodered is very smart. It actually helps you along the way to give you information that you're missing information, right? Okay. On the tweet, you would configure your Twitter account, and look at that. It's actually remembers mine, so my credentials. So that's pretty cool. Let me see here. You click over there, and then you can edit Twitter update. Oh, yeah, it does remember them. That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Nodered. So not too bad there, right? All right, cool. Let's go to something more, with a little bit more action. Okay, I know this is a little bit overwhelming. So there's actually two flows here. One is with Nodered, you can create APIs, right? So like over here right now, if I want to get what the current temperature is, you grab this guy over here, right? And let me just back up a little bit. Okay, we have with IoT, you have the ability to use what's called a virtual temperature sensor, right? So you can just Google it or whatever, but let me paste it here on the Slack channel, right? You can, and it'll give you different ones, right? You can, and let me grab that real quick and hit enter. So just so you see, I want to open up a little window here. and you open that up. And what's interesting here is that now you have a virtual sensor that you can control. This guy is your ID to that temperature sensor. And you click over here and you can manipulate the, whatever the temperature is. And it is going to give you a unique ID, right? So where does that go? The reason you do this is because you may not have your little sensor, or you could put a little IoT sensor on your TJ bot, so you could see if I'm hot or cold, right? You could literally connect there's a sensor into it, and then maybe you want to change the color based on what the temperature is, right? And you can have that logic flow into Nodered, and maybe you have it blink if it's starting to get too hot. So going back, I'm going to close that guy. Okay, close this guy. So we create an IBM IoT, right? And that guy's right over here, right? And what you put in there is you put that device ID. Remember, I just showed you that device ID? Let me move him over here so I can, that device ID, FC9C5, that goes right into there, okay? So, and it's going to receive different events. So let's take a look at that, right? So we are going to click on the debug tab and let's see what's happening here. Okay, so right now it says it's connected, right? And by the way, this guy is also, this is my real device, right? But my real device, I don't have it sending enough events quickly enough. So I can debug my flow first, and then I can reconnect it back to over here. So this debug, I'm going to turn it on. And when I turn it on, then it starts sending events. So I'm going to turn it off real quick again, so because I don't want it to overwhelm me with information. So two things you need to know a little bit about with Nodered. One is how to be artistic and connect to the different blocks. But the other thing is you need a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of JSON, right? Everything that flows through here is in JSON objects. So what we just saw there was an object, a JSON object, with an initial D for data. And in there, there's several members, right? Name, right? That's the name of the device, the temperature in Celsius, humidity, okay, and object temperature. That's what this guy returns, right? So he's got different modes here. He's got the humidity, object temperature, and your regular temperature. So you see it's 20 Celsius, right? Over here, 20 Celsius. Now check this out. I'm going to go back to my temperature, and I'm going to change my thermostat, and I want to lower my temperature down to 16 degrees Celsius. I have no idea if that's cold or not, but he's now sending data. Let's turn on my debug again. Oh, wait, before I turn it on, let me clear, because this data flows fast. So I set it to go again. All right. Okay, stop it. Let's go look at the object. Boom, boom. Look at that. It's 16 degrees. It's real time, right? That is really cool. Now, so now we have confirmed that the data is flowing. Okay, now we put some logic into this, right? So a couple of things. One of the things I noticed on here, do you notice that there's no time and date on the thing? There's no time and date. So, and if I want to keep it for historical purposes, I need to then send that to a function that I created called add time and date. Okay, so here it receives the message .payload, remember that? And then it adds .d, that's this D, and then I'm going to add a .created at, and then call new date. That creates a new date object and returns message, right? Okay, interesting. What does that look like? Okay, let me see. I've got another little debug statement here. So I'm going to turn that guy on, right? Remember, I'm going to delete these guys and then stop it again real quick. Let's take another sampling. This is kind of like chemistry, but with computers. Look at that. It added the time and date, right? Now it's useful. Because what happens if you want to go back, say, hey, what was the temperature yesterday? Or I want to do a graph over time, and I'll show you that. Okay, so now I've added the time and date with that real time And now I'm injecting it into my database. Remember the one I showed you before? It's called temp. This is not for temporary. This is for temperature. And then I'm going to do an insert operation, okay? And then only store message dot payload object. That means it's going to store the D dot stuff. It's not going to store all the other stuff that goes along with it. Good so far? I hope so. Okay. I believe this is being recorded, so you might have to like pause it and all that a few times.
Oh yeah, we're recording.
Yeah, good, good. I may have to go back to it when I forget how to do this. Just kidding. So now remember seeing that we had temperature there. We also had humidity, right? Okay, so we can grab the humidity and we're going to do some fun stuff. What if I want to graph this, right? This is one of the really powerful things on Node-RED. There's a graphing function, a dashboard graphing function that allows you to do this kind of stuff to it. Okay, it's called Node-RED dashboard. You can go crazy creating some graphs. So here's 4 different graphs that we did as part of this flow. Right, we did the temperature, the humidity, and we also graphed it over time. So you notice over here, humidity, right? What's the humidity? Humidity is at 66. So let's go back to our IoT sensor and let's change our humidity, right? All right, make it 60%. And so let's go back to our chart. Come on, get out of the way. That zoom status thing gets in the way, so I have to actually move it here. So you notice here, it changed the humidity, right? See how it dropped? No, humidity down here, sorry. 60, see that? Let's go back and change it again and increase the temperature too. So that's the object temperature. I'm not capturing the object temperature. You can add that if you want. Okay, so let's make it really hot. I'm not a Celsius kind of person, so I have no idea. But I gotta believe that that's hot. And then put some 70%, or let's make it 75%, so we can make sure that that actually did change. We come back over here, and then boom, see, it spiked up. And notice here that it's 30 degrees Celsius and 75. Isn't that cool? I think it's really cool, especially since I didn't have to write a line of code. My last year's intern at the last hackathon, I told him to go, hey, code me up some this, and he went and got Node.js, and he found the D3 package, and like 3 days later he came back, I got it, David, I got it. I had some problems getting to the database, but I got it. 3 days. We did this in literally in less than a half an hour, and that's including learning how to do it. So how do you get to that? Okay, interesting you asked that, because it doesn't come with your default Node-RED setup, so you got to pay attention now. So you go to settings here, and this is where the world of more stuff comes in. This is where, if you've used Atom or some of these other environments that are Node.js environments, they give you the ability to add packages to your environment. So here, you have the same capability too. So let's say that you look for dashboard. Ooh, what was that? Do they have it? Oh my God, they have an Amazon Dash thing. So if you get those Amazon Dash buttons, you can do some stuff with that. I'm not. I gotta be careful. I lose a lot of sleep learning all about all this stuff, but it's fun. So you go over here, Node-RED dashboard. See, it says installed. That's the one that you got to install. Once you install that, it'll create you this dashboard tab, and you'll get. Where was that? You'll get this whole dashboard right here. These are all the different things you can graph. You can do. Oh my God, there's so much you can do here. You can literally create a UI with buttons. So literally, you could do some serious web programming as well here without writing any code. Look at that. You have a form. You can write some text. And what we did was we did gauge and chart. Look at that. They have audio out, notification. UI control. Amazing, amazing. So what we did here is we created, so notice there's like a grid layout that you can select, right? So what we did is, Bharat helped me on this. We did some hacking last night to show you this cool stuff. So here we have two columns. We have the temperature and the history, and then the Celsius and the humidity. So the way that that gets broken down is like this. So we got the temperature, and we put Celsius, humidity, and then the history, we've got Celsius and humidity. Okay, and then you can select the different themes. So let's say I like the dark theme. I actually like that one. And then side, I don't need to mess with that. Okay, so I made those changes. How do I make it go? All right, let me see here. It hasn't changed. Okay, well, you got to deploy it, right? So once you make those changes, you deploy it. And once it's deployed, right? Ta-da! That's pretty quick, huh? All right, let me see if I can change that weather thing.
David, do you know how it's being rendered? Is it the vectors or?
This is using D3.js. It's yeah, I think it's a vector, but it uses internally a package for that for this. So it's already built into the Nodered graphing. So it's very fast and easy to change. Okay, so notice that the way that you configure that is you pick the graph and the gauge, right? So you can select, let's say if I want to change that to a donut, right? I go there, hit done, right? And then I've got to deploy it, right? And you literally can actually do peer programming on this. If both of you get together, you can actually both be editing the flow and all that at the same time. And Node-RED, Bharat, if you're on, can you, feel free to jump in and show you edit one change here so they can see how it is. But it's pretty cool. So let's take a look. So you deploy the app, and then you come back here. You notice how I made a donut, right? That's pretty cool. All right, so go back over here to, this is basically the code, right? And the whole purpose of this app was to then, you know how you have these Nest type of thermostats? So what we did here is as you're receiving this temperature come here, I have this decision point here, right? It's a switch. So if my temperature is less than or equal to 77, don't do anything. If it's greater than 77, because I'm in Florida, I want to turn on the air conditioning. So if it's greater than 77, that means it's warm, right? Then I can say, and then it's going to send this message called warm to my device. This is like my Nest device. And then I can have it go turn on the air conditioning. Or if it's cold, have it spin out. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to turn on the debug here, right? Okay, I'm going to clear these nodes. And right now it's telling me it's cold, right? Oh, but it's in Celsius. See that? Ha. Psych. Hey, yeah, okay. So now we have to adjust that for, let's see, 30 Celsius. Celsius. Okay. Anyway, I wish I would have paid more attention to metric temperature. All right, so I'm going to change this to if it's greater than or equal to 30 or greater than 30, right? Because I just went to Europe and the temperatures work differently over there. Okay, so I have to fix that. So right now it's still cold. So now I'm going to go to my thermostat, right, to my temperature. Where is the temperature guy sensor? And I'm going to increase the temperature, right? Okay, so now it should be hot. Okay, it's 32 degrees and it still says it's cold. Uh-oh. Did I deploy it? No, I didn't deploy it, did I? All right, so let's see. Ooh, forbidden? What happened? Oh, warm, see? And I'm getting errors. Something's happening. Ah, okay. So it's calling something error, and so it's probably sending them. Oh, okay. The error. It looks like. See here, it's tweeting. It says 403 forbidden API status is a duplicate. So that is the Twitter API coming back and saying, you already sent a bunch of tweets, right? It won't let you send a whole bunch of tweets all at the same time. So it'll let you send one tweet, right? Okay. Let's see. I think this is a good point to maybe stop and answer questions. What do you guys think? Oh, there's one thing I want before we do the questions. I didn't tell you about the API. Let's say I want to get the current temperature of the system, right? Because this data is being recorded into the database. I created this node here to get temperature, right? So get cur temp. The way you do that is basically you're creating an API, right? So all I have to do is use my IoT, app URL and get cur temp. And when I hit enter on that, right, and I must have misspelled that. I do that all the time. It's not get cur temp, it's cur temp. So let's say I want to debug that part of it, right? So I can turn that part there, clear this out, and then that's cur temp, not get cur temp. Get is the function. Okay. There you go. So you get a little JSON object, and it gives me back the temperature and all that. And if I go back over here, you can see from my debugging that it would print something out. Let's try it again. Why is it still printing out stuff? Where's the other guy? Is this part of this? Okay. I think I have somebody else. Yep. Somebody else is on. This guy here, probably. No. Turn that. Is there another debug mode on? Okay. Yeah, there's another debug node that's on, so I don't know where it is. All right, let's do some questions now.
All right, we actually brought everybody in. So if you look at the film strip there, you can see that everybody's in here. You guys have any questions, just to unmute yourself and you can ask David directly. I think this is pretty awesome. And I've got a question about, like, I know that Code Red is related to MQTT, which is, a pretty famous thing that IBM invented. How do they relate?
Yeah, so MQTT is that other portion that basically Node-RED talks to. Remember here, when you go to talk to the device, it actually sends this information to your IoT device in an MQTT packet. So when you have your TJ bot, you're running MQTT, some MQTT code there, listening for messages. So that's how it receives the message. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
folks on the call, anybody want to ask a question? You can come off mute. Are any of you interested in trying to use Code Red?
Node-RED.
Node-RED.
Don't be bashful.
Well, I got a
have
question. Also,
you guys have all your cameras pointing to the ground. That's not good.
Well, hi, David. This is Ellen Gullo. I just wanted to thank you again for literally jumping in to do this webinar for us. I can't tell you how important this was, because this is IoT is the biggest challenge theme that the interns have chosen. We're all closed out. We can't have any more teams on the IoT TJ bot, embodied cognition. So this was so important, and I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.
No problem. Glad to help. And I highly recommend that those that are doing the TJ bot and want to go down the path of using Node-RED. I put in a link up there in the beginning from those all those Node-RED flows that will make a lot of your coding a lot easier. So you literally just have to pick and choose. These are all flows that are available on the GitHub repository. There's a camera flow, there's a network monitor flow, color, tone analyzer, and all that. And all you have to do to use these is you literally go to it. You see all this text here? All you have to do is highlight it on your editor, right, on here. And there's a lot of stuff here. And then you go to your Nodered flow. This is actually a pretty important piece of information. So I cut and paste, and then over here I can literally just create a whole new tab, and then you say import clipboard, paste that Nodered code there, and then it'll put it in there. Now here in this case is look like it's looking for a few different types in here. Okay, so look at that camera, TJ back camera. There you go. See that? So now you can actually pick and choose what you want, take it out, right, and and make your own from here. So feel free to study those Nodered flows.
And is that a GitHub org, or is that just a particular?
It's a GitHub here inside IBM. Let me see here. Oh no, I don't know if it's inside IBM. Where is that? Come on, get this. See, is it this one here? Yeah, here we go. This GitHub is actually no. This one's GitHub IBM. It's
So
on
that's the enterprise GitHub, and it's just the Watson IoT dev.
Right. Demos, yeah.
But it's not part of a collection or an org of different repos together.
No. It's just it's in subdirectories underneath there. TJ but not red, right? So you just go under flows. It's just a subdirectory there, and each one of these is a different flow. So this one here, ask TJ bot for weather report. That would be a cool one, for example. You can talk to it, and and then ask it for a weather report. All kinds of different things. Let me see.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to stop the recording right there.